Hello,
Hi,
Alaric
hi Jim.
Volkert. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm on a coffee break. How are you?
Yeah. Here, so I'm on the weekly coffee break. I don't know, number 42 or so. Welcome to be our guest today. We have, I think, like very interesting topic. It's about how to create a winning startup scale-up
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
So you are like an expert in startups, but maybe explain to the people like who are you and what are you doing?
That's good. Yeah. Well, we're gonna host an event. How to build a winning team within startup scale environment. I'm a growth manager at Spinks
Hmm.
in Holland. So we are helping start and scale up companies to grow their business. And we do that with talent managers. So if a startup or a scale up company is seeding or uh, yeah, they have investment, they need to grow rapidly within 2, 3, 4 months, and we can establish that for them within 3, 4 months with the telemanager on site, so their team is up and running within 3, 4 months.
Okay, so you can help like startups expand like in a short time.
Exactly, that's our unique selling point.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
that
that's
we tell them like, okay, within 4 months you're up and running. So because in startup land, you need to grow rapidly,
yeah,
otherwise you have a problem as a startup. And well, we want to emphasize that,
yeah,
and we have a strong team which can support startups very well.
yeah. How big is the team?
Our team right now from Spinks is 6 people.
Okay,
And yeah, the ideal formation is that we're part of a bigger company, Harvey Nash. So our expand in a network is enormous within Holland, but also within Europe. Because nowadays the tech people, because we're mainly focusing on tech, fintech people, and of course also the HR and sales roles, but more the tech and the high tech. And those candidates are also from Germany or Belgium, for instance.
okay, yeah.
It doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah. And where is that passion coming from? Like, is the startup world, and is it mainly passion for startups? Is it mainly passion for sales, for growth? What's your passion?
Well, my passion is helping companies to grow.
Mhm.
So I'm in the recruitment scene for 25, 20 years now. Getting older and older, but it's getting longer and longer. And I've started with Spinks in July last year, and that's because I like the startup and scale up environment.
Yeah,
And lots of times, founders, they are incredible clever. They know exactly what to do, but their network in good people is not that good always. So I really like to help them with it.
yeah.
With that.
Now, what you say, like a startup and scale up environment? What is typically for these environments? Like I know, like it has like yeah a certain feeling, but can
Mhm.
you explain like what is the difference like with a startup with a classic organization or a bigger?
Well, in a classic environment, you have a budget, and startups, well, they are living off seeds from investors, VCs. So that's a big part of their grow plan. And every unicorn we know in the world has started as a startup. So we're beginning. It begins somewhere, and that's a startup, and that's an environment which is very dynamic. You have to change rapidly. You have to be very flexible.
Yeah.
And you can tell by a lot of founders and co-founders, they're really um, taken by an idea and make that in a plan. It's very interesting, and I am, well, more or less also an entrepreneur, because it's I did it in the past, I'm doing it now, and I'm really like to help the same philosophy with the same philosophy.
Yeah. Now, in the war for talent, I imagine that it's not that easy to find talents.
No, it's true. Now, I think right now it's really hard to find the good talent you need. But yeah, and the emphasis should be on the hiring or the onboarding from good candidates.
Yeah.
And I think that's well, it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of network also, and also takes a lot of knowledge. And that's something which, well, it can be a challenge for a lot of startups nowadays, because yeah, as you said, talents, finding the right talent is very hard.
Mhm. Now, on the 23rd of March,
Yeah.
you will have like yeah, a nice event in
Mhm.
Amsterdam.
Yep.
What will be like the topics? What is it like? Also like showing what you with Spinks are standing for?
Well, as you know, in startup, within the startups, well, I really want to help the startups, and of course, Spinks is one of the ideas.
Mhm.
But I asked some counterpartners to join me in the presentation for that afternoon. Well, like yourself, for
Yeah.
instance,
Uh-huh.
because I want to give the co-founders and founders, but also the VCs, some bright information afternoon how to build a winning team, and that's not only to hire, but also if you have a strong team, how do you get them developed? How do you get them motivated to work for you?
Yeah, and then
That's how,
specific for startups and scale-ups. What's like the limit for a scale-up? What's the limit?
you mean it's the limit as a grow?
Yeah, the number of people.
Well, I think for us the maximum is 200
Okay.
FTE, so that's not too big, because we have clients who are 8 to 12 people working for them, but we also have clients who have like well, almost 200.
Yeah.
And that uh, with the work Spinks is doing with a talent manager on site, those companies are ideal for us.
Yeah, maybe I will show the people like this is this
Yeah.
is where it happens. Can you tell something about it like here?
Well, we have the Spinspiration the 23rd of March, and it's at the T&W building in
Uh,
Amsterdam West, and it's a very nice building, because it's, well, it's a good building to work in, because there are a lot of startup and scale companies. So
okay.
it's really a tech hub in Amsterdam. So it's an ideal way, an ideal place to have that presentation or that event on that day. And we're gonna really talk about that, how to build a winning startup scale up team. So
Yeah,
not only how to hire them, but also how to keep them motivated in the
yeah,
team.
yeah. That sounds like really exciting. Yeah, I'm one of the
Yeah,
speakers.
you should.
So yeah. Now there will be four speakers. It will be exclusive, like it will be
Yeah,
on invitation only.
yeah. I really we're gonna do it invite only, because
Okay.
we really want to have the right spectators for that event.
Yeah. Now we have four speakers. Can
Mhm.
you just tell like a little bit what they will talk about?
Yeah, well, what we're going to talk about is not only about the hiring or how to keep them motivated, but also on the onboarding, how to onboard the right candidate. Henny, for instance, is going to talk about the digital side of that,
Yeah.
which for a lot of tech and high
Yeah.
tech companies is very interesting. And also Stuart from Fletcher,
Yeah.
Jason, he's going to talk about how do you get the candidates motivated within the company through some commission schemes. And it's
Okay.
very interesting
Yeah.
for small companies, but also for bigger startups to work with that, because the people are really getting motivated by that, and it gives you an extra impulse.
Yeah.
Of course, you have a very interesting story about the well-being for the employee and employee. Um, and I, of course, I start off with the Spinspiration. So I think we really are complementary with all
Yeah.
four of us,
Yeah.
and that we can show people or founders and co-founders of startups how you can cope with these challenges nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday I read like what the HR topics of this year, like the priorities are, and like yeah, what's there like was like talent attraction and retention,
Yeah,
then leadership and team effectiveness, and adaptability.
yeah.
So I think these three topics, like and everybody, I think for sure in the startup world will recognize these things.
Hmm.
I think they are like perfectly covered in like the team that you created to speak on the event. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that is very interesting for a lot of startups and scale ups, just to not only listen to us, because I don't really like the word expert, but I really like to work with the startup scale
Yeah,
ups. But also, we also give them a floor with other startups and
yeah,
other VCs, just to to talk about the challenges you're facing. Because I don't think there's like one answer which is correct and the other isn't. No, I think there are more ways to Rome, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And yeah, what you see is like yeah, networking and like collaboration, it becomes more and more important.
yeah,
So in the past, that's for me one of the major differences with like a classic organization that is like in a lot of cases based on like competition,
yeah,
that you see more and more like, and that I really like, that you see more and more like of these young companies that
collaborations. Yeah.
yeah, that they collaborate. Like that's
Mhm.
really nice to see.
Yeah, and I think that's really symbolic also for, of course, the startup community. Because when I started with Spinks, it really opened my eyes that a lot of other startups are wanting to help each other.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and even though they don't do the same business as each other, but they're really helpful and willing to help and give extra time and invest in you. And that's something I think, yeah, we have to return, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Now let's talk about like about the culture in like in like a startup. Like
Mhm.
yeah, I want to learn like a little bit more about that. Like what I see when I see a startup, I see like mainly young people.
Yeah, well, I think the if you want to address it that way, I think the most startups average age is around 30, maybe
Yeah,
34,
yeah,
but also younger than that. So it's a really dynamic industry which you really have to cope with in order to hire the new candidate. So it's a different world. It's a
yeah,
more dynamic
yeah,
world, and it's also, well, people really want to do something. Well, for instance, with the sustainability right now, that's very important. You really have to think about that if you're having a startup or
yeah,
scale company. How are you going to address those people? It's all in the detail.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. One of the other things is like what I see in a startup, they don't really like structure. Like, but in general,
No,
like they like to trial and to do trial and
Trial and
error and
error.
job to jump from one idea to the other, and therefore like that is something like what I think might be added to like a good startup to create like that stable base of like kind of some standardization, some procedures that is in a lot of cases missing.
Yeah, well, I think that's right, but I think a lot of startups are working in an environment or in a system that works for the startup.
Mhm.
If it's a small startup and you need to grow rapidly with 8 to 10 other people, then
Yeah,
your environment is changing, and you need to really the right system to work in.
yeah,
And a lot of startups and scale-ups are working in a good way with each other, but you can always do better, of course, increase that.
yeah,
But it's really, well, a lot of people just, they said, well, I don't want structure. I'm doing my work. Yeah, that's true. But there
yeah,
needs some structure.
yeah, 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 and yeah, how important is innovation for a startup?
Yeah, that's the start of everything. I think
Yeah,
that's. I talked to to a lot of startups, founders and co-founders, and you wouldn't believe how innovative they are. I mean, and so everything starts with that, and that's, I think, the beauty of the startup community. I mean, it's all the people I talk to. They have bright ideas. They have interesting developments within their company, but also with each other. So it's really a vivid environment,
mhm.
and it's really nice to work in that space.
Yeah, and do they work all in the office, like or do they work like remote? What's
Also
that?
remote, because if I look at, for instance, well, it depends, of course, on the vision of the company. For Springsit, for instance, I have like 4 people working at the client, so they're working at the startup, within the startup, for the startup, and yeah, I'm working from TNW, of course, but I'm also having a lot of appointments outside TNW. So I'm everywhere, and I'm where the startups are, more or less. So The Hague, Rotterdam, Amsterdam,
Yeah,
Eindhoven.
is there like a trend like that people want to work 4 days in a week, maybe 3 days in a week, maybe in the weekends, maybe like just pick the days that they are working? Is that trend visible?
Yeah, it is. It is, uh, especially after COVID.
Yeah,
Well, before COVID, everyone was working, on the floor, at the desk. But after COVID, well, 2 3 days at the office, but also 4 days a week is very familiar. Yeah, it's very normal within startup land. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now they are all focusing on their passion and talent. And another perception I have, I can be wrong, but is that sometimes they forget like the result, the financial result of the startup. So they are so passionate about what they are doing, and like
Well, I think that's a little bit of perception, because,
mhm,
like in the beginning, I told you, like they're getting seeded by investors, VCs,
yeah,
and the VCs really want to make the company grow more. So more in a financial way, but also for hiring more people. So they're really um, are more scaled up, um, also in a financial way. So it's not only ideal world, like, hey, what we are doing is ideal and we're doing a great. No, it's really, you're doing your job, and it's really it's a dynamic world, of course, but still, on the end of the road, at the end of the road, it's a job, right?
yeah,
So yeah, that stays the same. And of course, not every startup is seeing the light after a year or year and a half,
uh-huh,
but the ones they do, they have a big chance to become a unicorn.
yeah. Yeah, and of course that idea of giving them like participation in the company, like then they will work like as it is their own company. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's
No, but that's
that's
true. That's true. It's not all it's not all about income or the right salary, but it's also okay. What's your part in this company, and what can you be in the near future? And so that's something founders and co-founders are very flexible in, and very entrepreneurial also.
yeah, yeah, and the role of well-being is that increasing in startups?
That's a good question because I had some meetings like 3 4 months ago, and the well-being was really a part of a lot of
Mhm.
startups founders. Um, but I think it's really getting more and more important, not only to the employers but also the employees.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's really an important factor within startups, way more than I think than the corporate side.
yeah, 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 yeah. The trend is there that like the younger the people, the more yeah attention they pay to like that work-life balance and
Yeah,
uh, so yeah, that is like one of the effects of getting these young people in the startups. Like
yeah.
if you don't pay attention to sustainability, to well-being, to balance, to purpose, yeah, it's very difficult to get these young
It
people.
is. It's. I think it's essential.
Yeah,
Uh, if you look at the onboarding, if you don't do that in a correct way, well, then you miss out on 30% of your of the people you want. And that's something also in startups is very well an important topic. If you're not hiring the right person and you find it out after 3 4 months, well, you're missing almost like 100,000 euros. So
yeah,
it's a very important step to take. So well-being is really a part of that too.
yeah. And what is for you like an effective team, a startup team?
An effective is that it should be diverse. So the right diversity, um, uh, not the same typical candidates working in the same team. So they need to be really complementary.
Yeah,
Yeah, and of course that could be different in what type of startup you're having, of course. But you really need to make sure that your team is diverse. And I'm not only talking about different nationalities, but it's also yeah, different types of people.
yeah.
So that's a very important part, which well, I think can be more emphasized,
Mhm.
should be more emphasized.
Yeah. Do you see other trends like in startups that you say like that's just like really a remarkable trend that is going on right now?
Well, I think the diversity part is a
Yeah.
trend which is um, really and very very important with startup, but also I hear a lot of startups that they are having trouble hiring the right, and that's not only because they don't know who to hire, but also that they're not sure what kind of type, what kind of person they need to
Yeah.
hire. And nowadays, also now with the inflation, with the energy costs, well, for startups, it's very important now what to do. Are you going to hire, or are you just going to maintain the growth? Well, some difficult times it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
I
it's
think also, yeah, I think also one of the big differences between like let's call it a classical or organization and a startup, it's
yeah,
like the open-mindedness of the owner. Like that's like really a big difference. Like to have your people engaged, you need to like have like the gap between
Yeah,
employer and employee should be like minimal. It's in each relation, it's like that. And that
yeah.
is like something that I see in classic organizations, is like, they are
Mhm.
stubborn to change often, and that is why like the gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they are
Yeah.
not able to attract or retain like young people. Do
No,
you
and
agree?
I agree totally, and that's why the startup environment is such a interesting community for youngsters. I mean, for
Yeah,
young people, because all the things you want are there. I mean, you can have your own development. You can have your own part in that community in a job. Um, it's not all about the money; it's all about sustainability. So there are a lot of opportunities, especially for the younger generation, and that's something corporate companies, well, yeah, miss out lots of times. So that's a big plus and a big opportunity for the startup community.
yeah.
The
So we
reflection,
will, yeah. So we will put the link to the event in on LinkedIn.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, if you want, you can address like to the audience here, like once more, like if you want to do like a call for the people watching, like
Well, if people are watching and they're like, "Hey, well, I'm the 23rd of March. I'm in Amsterdam, and I want to check out or find out well how you can build and keep a winning team," you should come. I mean, you're more than happy. You can, well, Jim, they can tell you, or they can put in their name on the link. They can send their info to me. They're more than welcome. We have a, a big room over there. We're all ready, and we're going to be prepared, and we're looking forward to it. Just to well, to engage in an interesting way with each other. Well, to give some highlights, some interesting thoughts, and also some thoughts which we can really work on and tell each other about afterwards at the network and
yeah,
the snacks.
yeah,
So we can
yeah.
make all in one.
Yeah, I think really it's like if you are like in the startup business in the north of Holland, you cannot miss this
Yeah,
event.
or it's only Holland, by the way, Jim. We're working. Spinks is working for Holland in total,
Yeah.
so it's
Okay.
not only the
Yeah.
north but also Rotterdam, Eindhoven,
Yeah.
Utrecht. There's a tech hub, The Hague. So it's. I mean, if you're a founder, co-founder, or feel free and let me know if you want to be there. You're more than
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. I'm looking forward. So
Perfect.
we see
My
each other.
coffee is cold, so that's.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for being here, and I see you in 3 weeks.
23rd of March.
Let's see. There's like one. You also need a clear purpose. There is always a risk joining a startup, so you need a clear vision to sell the opportunity and attract the right people. That
People.
Ed McKay is giving
I
that.
couldn't
Can
agree more. I
you that?
couldn't agree more. That's a good one. Yeah, that's number one, of course.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
purpose.
Purpose. Yeah, it's one of the, yeah. In a lot of cases, it's just the start of a startup. It's like why they are doing it, and it should be like that.
Well, and and that's true, and that's they know the purpose, and well, if they're like 4 or 5 people big, the startup, those founders know exactly what to do. But if they need to grow rapidly afterwards, that's something which should be really emphasized and worked on.
Yeah,
Just yeah.
yeah. Now Ed is mentioning like there's always a risk joining a startup. Do you agree?
Yeah, you mean a risk that it's not working or that you're
Yeah,
after a year? Yeah, of course, but that's the way entrepreneurial people think, right? I mean, it's you can never start something which you can say, okay, this is going to be a success no matter what.
yeah. But I think, to be honest, that the risk of joining a classic organization is far bigger than joining a startup. That is also the reason why Gen Z people, in average, only stay 2 years, like in an organization, because they don't feel the match, and the gap is
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
True. True.
No risk, no reward is this reaction. So
No risk, no reward. Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to write that down.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Jim.
I
And
see you.
talk to you soon, the 23rd.
I see you 23rd in Amsterdam.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye.